Welcome to Click for Biology. We're looking at the endocrine system, which is the biological name for communication internally within the body using hormones. Theoretically, hormones are then always produced in a structure called the endocrine gland, possibly actually identified as an organ, or even indeed as a tissue. So you could talk about the endocrine tissue, or the endocrine gland, or the endocrine organ. The hormone will then be placed into the blood, and it will travel through the blood. So that's the way it gets around the body. So it must travel through the blood. That's part of being a hormone. And then it will have a target. That'll be a place, again, a tissue, a cell, an organ, or a gland, and it will then cause that target tissue to produce some kind of response. So it's wise that when you learn about different hormones to always think of identifying these components. What is the endocrine gland? What is the endocrine tissue? What is the target? And what is the response? I should point out that in many hormones, there isn't just one target, but there can actually be multiple target tissues, and the effects can be quite diverse, quite different to each other. So you can have multiple effects. In this particular video, we're going to take a look at insulin and adrenaline. The consideration of the reproductive hormones will be left until we actually are doing the reproductive system, although they are listed here as testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen in this part of the course. But we'll consider those in the reproduction section of the course instead. So let's take a look at insulin, and the purpose of insulin is to regulate blood sugar. So again, we have this situation where we have a fixed level at which blood sugar should be. Eating will cause that blood sugar level to go high, and then we have a corrective mechanism to bring that blood sugar level down, and that is the role of insulin. Insulin is produced in the pancreas in a set of tissues known as the islets of Langerhans, but students can simply focus in on pancreas. Insulin is produced in the pancreas. It travels through the blood. Insulin is actually a protein made up of a small number of amino acids, about 51 amino acids, and it travels through the blood, and I'm going to identify two target tissues for you. One is the liver, and the effect on the liver is to take glucose out of the blood and to store it in the liver as glycogen, like so. Insulin also has this effect on muscle cells and on adipose tissue. So those will both take glucose and store them as glycogen, like so. And in that way, they bring the blood sugar level down to the fixed point. It is possible for blood sugars to fall below that point, but then they become subject to a different hormone to bring the levels back up, and that hormone is actually called glucagon, but not mentioned on the syllabus. Insulin's role is to reduce blood sugar levels back to the fixed point after you have consumed sugary foods. The second hormone that we want to take a look at is the hormone adrenaline, and adrenaline is produced from the adrenal glands. Now, the adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys. So this is, I'm drawing a kidney now, and there's an adrenal gland like so, it's here. And the adrenal glands are responsible for producing adrenaline. Adrenaline is sometimes known by the name epinephrine. It's actually the same hormone. Now, adrenaline is put into the blood, and again, it has multiple target tissues, one of them being the heart. And what it does is it causes an increase in heart rate. And you might want to take a look at our videos on the on heart rate, and there you will recall that we talked about how heart rate is controlled by a structure called the sinoatrial node, and adrenaline can directly affect the sinoatrial node. I just put SAN for sinoatrial node, and it can increase your heart rate. Now, another thing that adrenaline can do is to convert glycogen, stored sugar, into glucose within the muscles. And so now this gives the muscles glucose for respiration. So let's summatively look at what we've just said. The secretion of adrenaline increases your heart rate, so that's a greater supply of oxygen. That muscles have got more sugar, glucose. So now these muscles have got more glucose and they've got more oxygen, which of course means they're going to be able to produce more ATP in respiration. And this is typical of the adrenal glands when they release adrenaline in response to a threat or to stress, like a physical stress or a mental stress, a threat to your well-being and your safety. The adrenal glands produce adrenaline to have these double effects, these multiple effects on our body system, preparing us to deal with the threat that we have perceived. In the next video, what we're going to do is just take a few minutes to compare the advantages and disadvantages, the pros and cons, a contrast between nerve communication and endocrine communication with hormones. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already.